but his own received him not. Well, John was there on the ground when this took place, not just in the ministry of Jesus for the 3.5 years that he ministered to his own people, and then the 3.5 years that the apostles ministered to them to close the 490 years of their probation. But what he's telling us is that when Christ came to his own and his own received him not, when they joined hands with the Roman power, the church is the one responsible for taking Jesus to the pagan power to have him put to death. Right? That's the same problem we have down here at the end of the world. The same identical problem is taking place. But most of us don't see this problem back here, but it's there. It's right there. The only difference is that this was a theocracy under God and the church. Saul was king, and the priests were the church, and the people of Israel were the members of the church, right? But it was through the people and the king that they disobeyed, and it says it is as the sin of witchcraft. It's rebellion. When you see the Jews not receiving Christ, when he comes to them and they would not receive, he was not received by his own, and they take him and they murder him at the hands of the Roman state. It's the same rebellion that was done under King Saul. It's the identical rebellion. And that rebellion is going to take place at the end of the world. To get a better grasp of this is that this idea of being king was never forgotten. One of the places where we learn this is Saul was a Benjamite. And let me just read something to you here so you can grasp this. Notice what this says. Now we're going to fast forward down to the time of King Jeroboam. This is about being the king. It says, let me back up a little bit.
Where are you?
This is called the Bible History by Edersheim. Bible History by Edersheim. The man's name is spelled Edersheim. That's a D. Edersheim. And the book is called Bible History.
Do they still make it?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it's on the Ellen White CD-ROM.
Okay.
One of the pioneers?
Yes, the newest spy. Yeah, it's on there. They had the wisdom to put it on there. It's a 5-volume set.
Okay, and it's
Notice-
history?
This is the Bible history, yeah. Now it says it was no doubt in order to foment the elements of discontent already existing, as well as because his position in the city must have become untenable. Jeroboam had risen up his hand against King Solomon. This is at the end of King Solomon's life, and Jeroboam had to flee into Egypt. Notice what this says. Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 29. When the prophet Ahijah, the Shilonite, found him in the way, Jeroboam had already planned, or rather commenced, his revolt against Solomon. It was already in the works. Okay? Himself an Ephraimite. Notice that Jeroboam is from the tribe of Ephraim. From Shiloh. In the days of King Saul, he was a Benjamite. Their borders bordered very closely to that of Ephraim. And the tabernacle was pitched up at Shiloh. when they came, after they came into the land, possession of their inheritances, Joshua and all the people, God had them set up the ancient tabernacle that Moses had erected in the wilderness, and it was placed at Shiloh, and it was there that the people went for their yearly worship services that God had commanded them to keep in the book of Leviticus. So, not only was Jeroboam an Ephraimite, but the place that they had always worshipped was also in the territory of Ephraim, which was Shiloh. Okay? The prophet would not only be acquainted with Jeroboam, but also know the sentiments of his tribesmen and the views of their new leader. We're talking here about Jeroboam wanted to be king of the 10 tribes. He was also a man that had been at work down in Jerusalem in some of the construction and the building going on in Jerusalem in the last days of King Solomon. And one of the things that this writer brings out is that all the men, the young men of the 12 tribes were really enslaved by this unholy rule of King Solomon in the building of all the different buildings and all the structures going on in Jerusalem, the taxing and all the things that Solomon had got his people into. They were really enslaved, and Jeroboam and the tribe of Ephraim resented it highly. Humanly speaking, rightly so, right?
Right.
So that's why this writer says Ahijah, being also an Ephraimite, was familiar with all this. He knew Jeroboam was familiar with all this. And this was the cause of the revolt that was in Jeroboam's heart against King Solomon. So it says, it was not therefore Ahijah who incited Jeroboam to rebellion. And we read about rebellion under this man. It's as the sin of witchcraft.
Right.
I want you to begin to make these connecting links in sacred history. By the symbolical act of rending his new garment in 12 pieces, giving him 10 of the pieces, while those retained were emblematic of what would be left to the house of David, rather did he act simply as the divine messenger to Jeroboam, after the latter had resolved on his own course. He's telling us that Jeroboam had resolved to rebel. Now Ahijah is coming and declaring to Jeroboam, because of what he's decided to do, what God is now going to do. The event was indeed ordered of God in punishment of the sin of Solomon, and you can read verses 11 through 13 of chapter 11 of 1 Kings. And the intimation of this fact with its lessons of warning was the principal object of Ahijah's mission and message. There was a warning here in this thing. But the chief actor had long before chosen his own part, being prompted, as Holy Scriptures puts it, by a settled ambition to usurp the throne. Go to 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 37. 1 Kings chapter 11 and verse 37.
Was Jeroboam the king that God cursed his seed?
Pardon me?
God cursed his seed?
Yes. He actually destroyed them.
Yeah, and that's why the angel, Mary was the one that was used to, he was on the line, David, wasn't he?
No, it was not.
Oh, I thought he was.
No, that's Judah.
Oh, okay.
David is Judah.
Uh,
Got your stories mixed up.
okay.
Verse 37 says, 1 Kings 11, verse 37. 1 Kings chapter 11 and verse 37. And I will take thee, and thou shalt reign according to all that thy soul desireth, and shalt be king over Israel. When I read this for the first couple of times, I had to read it a couple of times because I didn't quite get it. Notice what I finally sunk in. It says, all that thy soul desireth. So what he desired was to rebel against King Solomon. This was the thing that was in his heart. And this writer here is making reference to that. While the movement of which he took